Hi, graders. Today we're going to cover the next step of your literary analysis, which will take you from your thesis to the outline of your paper. You cannot write a good paper without a solid plan. It's the same as most any project. You can't just dive in without a plan, without set steps for what you plan to do when. That's what the outline does for you. You know that you already have your working thesis completed. And in that thesis statement, you pointed to 3 areas you would be addressing. That becomes body paragraph 1, body paragraph 2, and body paragraph 3. In that first one, you'll address the first area that you mentioned in your thesis of the 3. And to begin that, you will write a topic sentence. You'll follow that with 3 points of support for that topic sentence. Again, magic number is 3. You had 3 areas in your thesis statement, 1, 2, and 3. In your topic sentence, you'll be supporting that thesis with 3 points. And then we'll have P for point here. And after the point, you'll have a number 1 and a number 2. So we go Roman numeral 1, A1, 2, B1, 2, C1, 2, 3. That last sentence will be a clincher, which will bridge us to the next paragraph. We'll get to that. I just want to explain that the 1 will be a quote, and the 2 will be your statement of significance, explanation of significance of that quote. Just as you did with the dialectical journal, you'll have a quote and then a reaction to it. The difference is you are not in any way just telling us what this quote says, you're telling us the so what. So not just the what, but the so what. Why is this important? Why does this matter? What do we learn from this? So for our purposes, on this outline, we're going to call the first approach to it an idea outline. You do not need full sentences. So where you're going to write a topic sentence, you'll just instead write briefly your 3 points that you're going to make in support of whether this is a conflict or an area of growth and development, whatever that might be. You'll have 3 points to support it. And our goal for next time together is that you have found the quotes for each body paragraph, and each number 1, each numeral 1 is in an illustration or textual evidence. And so you'll need 3 for the first body paragraph, 3 for the second, and 3 for the third, for a total of 9. So your job is to be clear on what each body paragraph's topic is, to know what 3 quotes would fit in your body paragraphs. So that is your work to do. You'll be right now just finding textual evidence. And you'll write the page number briefly and what the quote concerns. You do not have to write it all out at this point. It's in your book. You'll be typing it soon enough. But remind yourself what each quote deals with and what page it's on to make life simple. We will cover this in full in another video, but right now I want you to focus on the textual evidence you'll be supplying. So your job is to find in your notes, in the book, 9 pieces of textual evidence to support your 3 body paragraphs. We will also briefly cover how you'll cite that. We are only using 1 source in this paper, so your MLA work cited page will be a work cited page. We're only citing 1 work, and that is Out of the Dust. And so the first time you mention the first textual evidence you supply, you'll put HESSE in parentheses for the author's last name, a space, and the page number. Now I've used an example not from Out of the Dust so that you could see how you might read in a quote in your work. This comes from Wonder by R.J. Palacio. And so this would be, imagine you're writing the first quote in body paragraph 1 for Out of the Dust, but we're using Augie and Wonder as our example. So the point you're making, the P point, is Augie's appreciation for Amos's friendship strengthens following the trauma of being bullied by a group of students from another school. Then we have our quote, and because you will see there are 3 quotes, that tells you right away this is a character speaking. It's a quote within a quote. You're one brave little dude, you know that? One single end quote, said Amos, putting his arm around my shoulders, and when I kept crying, he put both his arms around me, like my dad would have done, and let me cry. And we've got Palacio, the page number, and the punctuation goes afterwards. There is no punctuation here. It looks a little strange because we're used to putting a period or a comma here, depending, but you just put the end quote. So we started with 3, 1, 2, 3, so that means we have to have 3 on the other end. Let's see, we've got 1, and then 2, 3. So we are all set that way. We have the author's last name, no comma, no dash, no punctuation at all, just a space. The page number, there's no P for page, no word page, just the numeral, end parentheses, end punctuation. So if we were staying with this story and we were quoting R.J. Palacio, the next time we quote, because we know that we're discussing only wonder, for example, we will only use the page number. So for example, here's another point. That moment of kindness from Amos changes Augie's status and outlook at school. Quote, and now that they'd protected me, I was different to them. It was like I was one of them. End quote, parentheses, page number, parentheses, period. Again, no punctuation here, just the page number, not the word page, not a P for page, not the number sign, just 282. That's clear that it is page 282. Now, for quoting lines from a poem, like Out of the Dust is a series of poems, there are some MLA rules. MLA is the set of guidelines we follow. It stands for Modern Language Association. And according to MLA, if you're quoting fewer than 3 lines of poetry, you show the break lines with a slash. You know how to do that from our dialectical journal. Be sure to put a space before and after the slash. Here's an example straight from Out of the Dust. You'll see I bracketed sorrow. That tells you that in its original form on page 84, sorrow is lowercase. But for my purposes, I want it to be the first word of the sentence, so I put it in brackets. Quote, bracket, capital S, sorrow climbs up our front steps, comma, space, slash, space, big as Texas, comma, and we didn't even see it coming, end quote, parentheses, 84, that's the page it's found on, and I'm putting that period in brackets because it's not technically the end of a sentence. I'm changing it to be the end of a sentence for my purposes. So again, when we make changes, we put them in brackets, even if it's something as small as punctuation. If you're quoting something longer, 4 lines or more of poetry, then you try to keep it as close to the original format. I chose a poem from Judith Viorst's If I Were in Charge of the World and Other Worries. So this is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 lines of poetry.